We're talking about attraction, and our fifth and final question is reflective of that. How does the reflection of our spiritual growth show up in our relationships now?
I'll start again too. I see you. You want to go?
Hey, man,
Good. Good.
Okay.
Go ahead.
It's interesting because I feel a lot of I'm gonna relate this to my family first, and what I wrote was, I humble myself more with my family. So Emmanuel's my brother, right? I'm my brother, so he knows how strict I can be, like how tough I can be, especially being the oldest sister. I have an older brother, but I got 4 younger brothers and a sister, so I can be very strict, right? But I humble myself in moments when I know I get overly strict. And he'll know. I'll come to him and be like, yo, bro, my bad. I apologize. If there's anything that I said, let me know so I could reframe it or just put it in the way where I intended it to be. So I see that how it showed up in my relationships, that I'm way more careful of when I am strict to clean it up. And then and humble myself, right? Like with them, like just to come to their level, and not even with my siblings. With my nieces and nephews, I do the same thing because I realize sometimes I'm like, yo, they are sponges. And every single thing that they see us do, they're going to mimic it. So let me bring myself down to their level a little bit. Even come down and kneel to be eye level with them so that they get like, no, auntie's not bigger or anything. We here, right? And that shows a lot of spiritual growth when you could listen to a child, because even when they can't talk, they talking. You know what I'm saying, right? So that was one thing. And then when I look at my relationships professionally, I think my spiritual growth has allowed me to be way more confident professionally, because in that, knowing my spirit, knowing my soul, I'm like, okay, so I'm showing up to where I'm supposed to be. I'm supposed to be here. It's not like y'all let me in. I'm supposed to be here. I got it through all the work, right? So there's a level of confidence that I feel like is now more. There's a greater awareness of that, and I think the last thing I notice is that, like, I just like to be around good energy. I like to be around good energy. And I feel like when I feel that way, people say to me, like, they invite me out to more things because they're like, you got this good energy. We want more people to experience it. And then I want to be in spaces where more people get to experience the energy. So it's like, that's how I can see that I'm growing, because I'm like, oh, I want to be out more around like good energy people. So I think that's definitely a level of growth, because I think you might have said it, Cynthonia, where you're like, yeah, I like being by myself. Or just in the fact of like talking to yourself. I've spent a lot of time talking to myself. And so now it's in a space like I see that I've grown when I want to be out and around more people, Yeah. So thank y'all. Y'all really allow people to go into themselves, and it's not in any way to like, oh, I'm wrong, or this is wrong, or I gotta be better, but it's just like acknowledging like where I'm at. I'm proud of myself, and I have some ways to still grow, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's just a level that shows I'm on a continual path of growth and development, and that's a good thing. Nothing's wrong with that. So I thank y'all for the questions that allow us to be so introspective, and then even just to glean and to get the perspectives from each of you it helps me to grow. I got little notes over here. What I put, you attract who and what you are. I was like, daydream and see yourself. And then what else I got? I was like, yeah, your outer world adds to your soul's progression. I was like, these people are brilliant. So thank you. Because I think that too is in acknowledging the people who you get to share the space with. Like, y'all are brilliant. And that's going to continue to help me, develop and grow. And it's going to continue to evolve and show up in different relations that I have. Yeah. So thank you again.
Can I go? We just out here doing dope stuff. No. There you go.
1,000%. Full stop.
So I think for me, like I said it in my promo about boundaries. So I'm not going to really repeat that because it's in the promo. But what I was thinking about again was what Irijah just said, which is evidence again, Irijah, that the Most High blesses this space because we find ourselves in alignment all the time. So what I was thinking is reflective of what you just said. I used to have a manager when I worked in my early 20s, and at the time she was probably about my age, and she used to sit there. I used to work for this conflict organization. I was a trainer and a coordinator in that, and you'd speak to her and she would sit there and she'd just go And I used to think, what is this? This woman's like Yoda, man. Like, she would barely say anything, but she would always hear everything you said, reflect it back to you, and then give you the right piece of advice. And I was in my 20s, and you can see I'm live. My nature is quite live. But I realize I've become that in my maturity. I've become somebody that is happy to listen. I can listen for an extended amount of times. I'm not as invested in whether I'm understood, whether I get to speak, whether my opinion's heard. I can walk away from things and not say anything if I feel that's the appropriate action. But equally, if I feel the appropriate action is that I need to speak up or shout or be loud, I'm going to do that. And I think my spiritual growth, how it reflects in my relationships, is that level of confidence to do what I want, not what anybody else thinks is appropriate at any given time. And my analogy is always whether I choose to draw my sword. Let me just whether I choose to draw my sword.
I love it.
Not a sword, it's wobbly. The wobbly
and she pulls out a sword. And she pulls out a physical sword.
A wushu, right? But it's a good analogy because I think, for me, I've always struggled with other people's, back to question one in the labels. And even though I've got my own mind and I've got a strong mind, I also have been a very big people pleaser. So I had to really get away from that people pleasing and evolve through the stages of self to go past people pleasing to full-blown inner confidence. And I will manage every relationship the way I deem fit. And that may not fit with anybody else's perceptions at times. And I have to accept that. And I think Victoria, who sometimes comes along to the group as well, one time she was saying about how she just has to be the villain in things. She's accepted that sometimes you got to be the villain. And no, I'm the villain in the story, but me being the villain is what I deem right. So call me a villain. I'm a villain because you're not getting what you want from me. I'll be the villain in the story if that makes you happy, but I'm going to be true to me. So I think, that's my answer. Really having my own mind and do what I want in regards to relationships.
For me, I relate to both of you guys' perspectives, but also coming off the back of learning how to not people please, I also had this complex about being a fixer and wanting everybody to be okay. And wanting you to understand this because this works well for me. And as I've grown in my spiritual journey, I think something important to point out and learn from is the fact that you cannot do that. You have to allow human beings to be human beings. Obviously, you can lend an extra hand with children, but with adults, you have to allow them to grow and progress the way they see fit. If they choose to latch on to something that you're doing that seems positive, encourage that, nurture that. But if they see it as something negative or have a misconception or a judgment about it, you have to also accept that and realize that you can't please everybody, you can't help everybody, and family, friends, or whatever the case may be, not everybody is going to go with you. And that's something else that I am learning in real time as well. Because as positive and as dope as this energy is, it's challenging. And not everybody is equipped or wants to be equipped with the gusto to continue to go into that mud. This is a different type of experience going through these, types of changes and all this growth, right? And not everybody want to do that. Some people are content where they are, and with that being said, that's how it affects my relationships in real time. Like in certain situations, I have people who are super, supportive and want to know more about the situation, want to know more about this or that, want to know more about what I'm reading and what I'm doing and how this is, reflective in my life. Actually listen to me when I want to break down the complexities of mental health and those things and why this actually is this way, why your trauma could make you be rude and all of these other things. On the opposite side of the spectrum, there are those who I've been called a witch. I've been judged as somebody who is kooky, a hippie, all of the different labels that you get when you ground and meditate and things of that sort. So basically, how it translates in relationships, it grows you it grows you in your own authenticity, because after a certain point you realize that your tribe is your tribe, and the people who aren't necessarily adapting to you or the people who won't accept you for who you are not your tribe, and that is okay. How they choose to feel, what they choose to say is their own business, and you don't have to adapt that as Bible for you. So either way, it's a blessing or a lesson, right? And it's growth is how it translates in my relationships in real time, and I appreciate both. It's conditioning for the next steps of the journey.
Mm-hmm.
That made me think of definitely where I'm at, right? So just taking time to really be present, be present, and to not force anyone else, because I think it was Blue Pill and Red Pill. They were having a discussion about people being asleep spiritually. And if you wake somebody up before their time, they're not in the best mood, right? So that's a reflection of my spiritual growth and how it shows up in relationships. To take time with people.
Yeah.
And be aware of, okay, this is where you're at right now. So maybe I'll give you a little bit of this food for your soul. Just get a nibble this time, and if you want more, there's more here. But I'm not trying to force it on anybody. My son was telling me the other day about Christianity and how Christians are not supposed to force the religion on anyone, and I'm seeing my spiritual growth is that same way. I'm not trying to force anybody to become enlightened or think that this is the way for them. is just like acceptance. And I got that from that retreat. I think it was the Flight of the Eagle. With yeah, that's something that came up for me in my ayahuasca retreat. Is just acceptance, acceptance.
Can I have to say, I think the challenge for me with that, I fully agree with you on every level. And I can relate to it in terms of my own journey, in that I've seen the Most High give it me in increments. Like with Wushu, like, you got to get this before I give you that. So I've seen over a period of 10 years, my growth extend as I extend. The only place I find that a challenge is with my children. That's the only place.
Oh yeah,
I'm like,
right. I wouldn't even say just that, right? It was when I was with Samantha, Kyrie's mom. It was child and significant other. I think that's sometimes we have the least amount of patience for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because when you see it's self-damage, and I like to believe I've been able to straddle that line where I've let the mistakes happen, you know, and then I've caught them, because I know that if I talk to you too much, it's just going to push you further down the road. So I've got to shut my mouth and let you do it, let you fall off the cliff, and then catch you, you know what I mean, and put you back on top of the cliff. So I think I've done that enough. But there are times, man, where I'm just like, ugh. You know what I mean? You've got to be positive. Hang around with wicked people. Don't watch too much TV. You know what I mean? There's times where I just want to switch all devices off and put them in monk mode. Do you know what I mean? Like, listen to this here. Listen to affirmations 24 hours a day. But you gotta let people be, innit? You gotta let them be, including your own children. You know.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Tone, it looked like you saying something, but you're on mute.
It would help if I wasn't muted. Man, so people are so annoying to me sometimes, right? Like, so I don't know how to ask the question again one time. How my relationship? Okay, you don't have to ask me because I can tell you. Because if I use the example that I used in my promo with like my coworker, I don't want to be all over the place when I start speaking. So because it's I don't know how to put it into words. My I just think that my life gets I don't want to say it gets easier. Like I don't have situations that grind my gears or get under my skin, or people don't get on my nerves, because they do often. It's just that like as I spiritually evolve and grow, things don't bother me as long and as deeply. So for instance, I don't know if everybody seen the promo, but I did use the example of the mechanic that I work with at work. I build elevators, and my mechanic, he's been doing it now for 15 years. I've been in it now for 7 years. But he's my mechanic, so like he's the senior between the two of us. I'm gonna keep this clean. He has ways about him. He's not a bad person at all. He's not a bad person at all. He's just in his ways who he is. You know what I'm saying? Like, stubborn. I'm right. Things are supposed to be this way, so that's the way it is. Like, right? And I am. It doesn't matter how things are supposed to be. That doesn't mean that that's the way they are. So we waste a lot of time, or I very easily got annoyed with a lot of stuff working with him. On top, I feel like he doesn't do things wisely, smart, like, you know what I'm saying? We double work a lot of times, and I feel like I get annoyed. I used to get annoyed. I used to feel like because you're a mechanic, because you have more time, I'm gonna say this, but I'm not racist. I'm not none of that stuff or whatever. But I felt like based off of like some of the ways he acts, I'm like, this guy thinks because he's white and he's a male and he's in this industry that he has all the answers. He's right. It's his way or whatever. And he like acts like I'm retarded. Like, mind you, I'll give like maybe we should do it this way. No, 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 that's not gonna. And as it turns out, we always do it. End up doing it my way. But at by the time we do like 5 or 6 different things before we get to my suggestion 3 hours ago. But by the time now we're doing it the way I suggested. Now in his mind, this was his idea. So I used to, like I used to get mad about so many different things. Like even the amount of work that he would allow me to do. And in my mind, I felt like I know I could do it neater, better, like probably not faster, but like so many ways. Long story short, as like this is to answer the question how my the outside my spiritual growth is affecting my relationships, how it's being mirrored in my relationships, right? So at first I used to get like so aggravated. I used to catch attitude. And when I have an attitude, you feel it. Like it's an energy that like I can make it really uncomfortable in the room. I can make it really uncomfortable. And I used to do that at first, like attitude, this, that, like this dude is retarded. This dude like whatever, whatever. So many things I was saying, and it's him, it's him. Like why is he like this? Da 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 this and the third. But then like I said, nah, it's you. Like it's me. It's me. No matter what he do, how he act, or this and the third, how it's perceived is me. So I start. He keep doing that thing. So then at first it started. Oh, you have any suggestions? Nah, I don't have any. Whatever you decide to do, do. But that was not the right way because it's still like making my day like still annoyed, still in my mind thinking of all the ways that this is gonna go wrong because whatever, whatever. But then it's just like, yo, you know what? I started paying attention to how he talked to other people. I started
Mm,
paying attention to conversations that he would have on the phone because I would always just be like, whatever, like he's annoying. I'm over here, he's over here. But then I started paying attention and I'm like,
he's like that.
it is, it really is me because he is just being who he it has nothing to do with me. It has nothing to do with me being black. It has nothing to do with me being female. Yeah, because he's spoken that in a way, like, but he, whatever. It's not all right, dude. You know what? I'm not even going to get mad no more when you keep acting and you. So what do you think? I'm gonna give you my suggestion. I'm just gonna know we're gonna do a couple of things before we do what I suggest to do. But at least I know that I'm gonna be a good mechanic because I know, regardless if he says it or not, or admits it or not, we be using my ideas. We do my suggestions. So I like switched it. It's like, all right, he could have all this stuff. When we in front of the supervisor, he could act like I don't even care, but I know it's me. I know that I'm the one with the ideas. I know that I'm the one making everything neat. I know it's me. I know it's me. So I don't even get mad about those things no more. So that's just an example, like, and in me doing that, we could just have conversations about other things and just talk, and I can give him pointers on some things, and I can act like I'm taking his advice on other things, and we could just have a regular work relationship without the tension and this and the third. And now it's so much more like now he lets me do things like more now. Now it's like my suggestion, like, now you would think that we were both like, so I let it, and it worked out. So and again, short answer, I just changed my mind. I just changed the way I think, and that shows up because my relationships, I just use him, but I have other people I have similar, my relationships show because they're easier. They're they're not without bumps. They're not without, but I have a disagreement with my friend, and we're able to have a disagreement, talk about the disagreement, and move on, and still laugh and smile, all within in that same sitting. To me, that's me, spiritual growth on my part, because I have always been the type that I can silently hold a grudge for years and probably forever. Like, you know what I'm saying? So like I feel like it shows up because my relationships are easier. They're easier to manage. I don't mind I don't mind them so much. You know what I'm saying? I don't mind keeping up with friendships and relationships. I don't mind. That's how I know, like, that's how it's being reflected. If that makes sense. I know I said a lot, but hey,
No, look,
yeah.
I want to add to this, just to support what you're saying again, because it's running through. When you set your boundaries, what you find is people will adapt to your boundaries. So they might treat 99% of the people out there like that. But if you say, I'm the 1%, mate, you may F and blind at everybody. I've been around people like that, colleagues, elders that are like, I don't like swearing. I'm not going to swear around you then. I'm going to respect that because you said, my ears, I'm that generation where I can't hear that. I respect that. You're not going to hear me swear. You know what I mean? When people set their boundaries gently and respectfully, other people have to move, position, or leave. And you end up having, I think we all sometimes forget the responsibility that we carry with that in terms of that iron sharpening iron thing and helping other people to develop. You know, because I'll say again that time when I was running off my mouth and Adriana and Cynthonia told me like, hey, hey, calm that down. I was like, I meant it, but you know what, I will calm it down. You know, people will adjust. I will adjust to certain characters that I know. I can't be around my friend Sonia just talking negative stupidness. She's going to hold me up to that. She's going to say, why are you saying that? And I don't like the way you're talking about that person. She keeps me to a high standard. And again, that's about, you know, rising through the spiritual, for anybody watching that's rising through the spiritual thing. If you want to be elevated, you got to be around elevated people. If you stay, that's why this process means discarding certain characters and allowing yourself to evolve into something else. So that's a big lesson that I've learned and wanted to just reinforce what you're saying, Cynthonia, is that when you set your boundaries as well with people, they will adapt. And I know there's people that treat me differently than how they treat other people now because I've put boundaries in place, you know? And I had that conversation with Ome the other day because they had a group conflict that she told me about. And she said, my mom's taught me to assert myself. My mom's taught me that I've got to have boundaries. So the way the rest of the group dealt with this individual, when she was telling me about it, I was like, that's wrong. They bullied him. Even though he's wrong in his behavior, the minute they join forces into that unit now, you're bullying him because the power dynamic is wrong. But she went off and had a separate conversation with him and made him feel better at the end of the day and gave him some kind of empathy because she's dealing with him one-to-one. These are my boundaries. So I don't like when you do this with me. But actually, a lot of the stuff that the gang said, I'm all right with. You know, I think it's important to not forget our own personal power and our own personal responsibility, you know.
Yeah, I agree. That's something that we have to remember is what we bring to the table for real.
Being silent can be being complicit. And a lot of the time I've done it myself. I can't say I do it much these days, but I've definitely done it before where I've sat there and I'm not saying nothing because I don't want to rock the boat or I don't want to be that voice. Sometimes you get sick of being that voice as well. But you got to know in situations where it's wrong, if you're silent, you're part of the wrong.
That's actually good. If you're silent, you're yeah, and that's a true thing. They say like if you're not part of the solution, you're part of the problem, right?
Problem. Yeah.
Yeah. I wanna so we've reached the end of the questions, but to wrap it up, right? I do want to ask one everybody a question, like, for the people who are gonna be watching. There are young kids, there are people stuck in their ways. Like when you're dealing with spirituality, it's a very it's so much, it's so complex, it's a lot, it's hard, right? So like to somebody who's not spiritual, and I definitely like what you said too about not forcing anything. So however you answer is however you answer it. But like, what would be your advice or your take on somebody, for somebody or people who want to, who are intrigued, or they're so tired of where they at, or they know there's something else, but this is just a gimmick, like the breathing, the sitting still, the like, what would you say to somebody that wants to, maybe curious, but is just like, it's because it is hard. Like, what would be your advice to get somebody to open the window, open the door to spirituality?